Hey Titan fam, I just wanted to talk to you guys quick and give you some ideas on how we might be able to add some weight or some resistance to some of the exercises you're going to be seeing in Team Builder here in the coming weeks. Most of these things you should be able to find in your homes. One of the big things that I really want to emphasize is that we do not want you going out and purchasing things. These are the things that I happen to have in my house. And again, assuming that a lot of people have stuff built up over the years, you may or may not have some of these things. Again, the important point is we do not want you going out, exposing yourselves to other people or whatever, especially with the stay-at-home orders. We want you to be able to use the things that are in your house. We want you to be creative. We're trying to be a little creative with some of the things that we're going to show you. So please, please, please understand that our first and foremost priority is to keep you guys safe. Now, moving into some of the things that we may have at home. A couple of the things here, we do have backpacks. Everybody's got a backpack and you've got books. So I've got a couple of backpacks in here. Obviously, the more books you add, the heavier things can get. So simply adding a backpack to do our squats or to do some sort of lunge are some ways to add that resistance. Another way to just challenge you is to put it on backwards. You can do the same thing, throw it across your back and hold it up front. You can still do our lunges. You can still do our squats. Things like that. Another way, if we're going to use a backpack, you can do it. You can hold the ends. You can do some bent over rows maybe. Again, you may have to add a little bit more weight than this or more books into it. You can even do certain things. You can do some RDLs. You can do single leg stuff. Anything to add some resistance and to challenge your posture. So the next piece too, if we've got duffel bags, the duffel bag just kind of provides a different type of resistance. Right now I actually have some of our fireplace logs in here, but you can use anything. You can throw some rocks in here, you can throw books obviously, you can pile in some shoes or whatever just to add some resistance, but this just adds the load in maybe a different place. You can throw it over your shoulder, you can still do some lunges this way, again, get creative. You can still do some squats. Again, it just challenges where that position is or where that weight is. You can hold it up top, same idea. This one may be a little easier to do your rows with. Again, loading it up. You can do your RDLs, things like that. I think you can even, if you were creative enough, you might be able to do some swings with it. We've done, if we've got a kettlebell swing. Actually, you can probably do swings with a backpack too. It might be a little skinnier for you. Doing some swings this way. But again, things to add just some load to some of our lower body exercises. It's going to be really simple, really easy. Grab a stack, a couple of things that you probably should already have, backpacks, some books, things like that. That's one way to do things. Now, if you head out to the garage, you may find some 5-gallon buckets. If you do, again, mine looks pretty new, but it really isn't. I did not go purchase this just specifically for here. Something that I have, you may have some dirty ones, clean them out. Maybe throw some rocks in, throw some books in, just to add some load to it. And again, you can grab it right around the front here. We can still do our squats. You can do all sorts of things. You can do our lunges. You can hang on tight, do some RDLs. Again, be creative with it. But again, I'm not trying to push you guys to go out and buy things. Something else you guys might have already in the garage is a toolbox. Might have tools in it. If it does, great, because that's already going to weigh just as much. Again, you can do our farmer's carries and we can do our walks this way with it. You can grab it, hold it funny, do, again, more squats. You can do some side bends, you can do some lunges, all sorts of things. If you are able to hang on to it, this might be a little better for some rows. If I'm doing some bent over rows, if you can figure out how to hang on to it, maybe just do some pressing. Sorry, my light's in the way. You can press overhead. You can probably lay down on your back. Do some presses this way as far as a bench press. But again, just some ideas of some things that you may have in the garage. Now, if I go outside, again, these are things that were already in my backyard, as simple as a rock. If you want to wipe it off, you can still use it. But again, weird shape. You're going to be able to use all sorts of positions, do all sorts of things with it. You can do your pressing. Still do some rows, all sorts of stuff. If you use some rocks, you can maybe find some smaller rocks and go one in each hand and still do curls or presses or some rows, depending on what you have. At the same time, won't pick it up, but if you've got some maybe old logs, out back. Again, another option for you for some extra weight. Now, so that we've got some bigger things that we can add to, like our squats and our presses and our pulls and our rows. Some of the smaller things that you may have around the house. Again, anytime we've got heavy books, you can load them up, doing curls or anything like that. If you've got some old towels on some wood floors or tile floors, you can do some things. For instance, leg curls, you slide pretty well. Doing some of that, you can even add some resistance if you want to add a couple of blocks to your hips to add some weight to that. If you do have a bunch of carpet, we've got furniture movers. If you have those work pretty well on the carpets too. Do the same things, some of those. Again, if you venture back outside, you may have some bungee straps, all sorts of pull aparts. You can flip it around, maybe do some bench presses, things like that. If you tie it down to the bottom of your shoe, you can do some curls, we can do some flies, things like that. If you're able to find something to hook it around, you could stand and do some rows. Theoretically, you want to hold that for me? Mm-hmm. Hold both of these actually. And I could stand and do some rowing. My wife isn't too keen on being my anchor point, but you get the idea. Again, just some things that you guys can find around the house. We'd love to see what you have and some of the ways that you're adding some resistance to some of this stuff. I think it is very, very important that we do touch on things like making sure that we're safe while we're doing all this. The last thing we want you guys to try and do is attempt to be creative, and let's say you're trying to deadlift your couch and you throw your back out because it's an awkward piece and it's too heavy. So just please, please, please be smart. If at some point you have any sort of doubt in your mind that this may not work, please stop. The last thing we need to see is you getting into any issues or injuring yourself. And then one last piece, if your animals will allow, if you do have a kitty or a small puppy, you can use them as some resistance. Jackson is probably not a very willing participant, but he. But anyway, hopefully those give you guys some ideas on how you can add some resistance to some things. Again, please stay safe, be smart about some things, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.